How would you like to pay off your first home in just 9 years? Or pay cash for your next car? How about spending less than half of what other families do on groceries? Our guests today on the Dollar Structure interview have done just that. With us today, we'll ask Steve and Annette Economides how they manage these wonderful financial feats. Steve and Annette Economides are New York Times bestselling authors, parents of 5 grown children, and family finance experts. They've authored 3 books and affectionately known as America's Cheapest Family. Thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
It's a lot of fun to finally see you face to face, Gary.
Yeah, we've shared some phone calls. Now, when we talked in the past, we shared some of our history. I grew up with frugal parents that they were grown up through the Depression and all. Now, how did you all start to pursue a frugal living lifestyle?
Actually, you can say it was sort of out of desperation. We both grew up in typical middle-class homes, but when we first started out and were married back in 1982, we had literally nothing.
I was working as a graphic designer, a paste-up artist, actually, not even a graphic designer, for a printing company, earning $6.50 an hour. We went through a marriage prep class that taught us a little bit about budgeting, and we'll talk more about that later. And Annette wanted to learn to manage a home. And just, some people say, oh, just be a homemaker. I'm going, no, this was really important. And I was going to, earn $6.50 an hour, $838 a month take home. And people told us, Steve, you ought to work 2 jobs. Annette ought to work 1 job. And you ought to save every penny you make so you can be in a house in 3 years. Well, we bucked that trend. I worked 1 job, did a little bit of freelance work, maybe a couple $1,000s a year. Annette stayed home. We managed the budget together, and
It was my job to stretch our pennies until they begged for mercy. That's what I say. and we did it.
Within 3 years, we had enough money to put 15% down on a house, and we paid that house off by using the same system we're going to talk about in 9 years on an average income of $33,000.
Now, one of the keys for you all was the use of a budget, right?
Right.
Absolutely. That was, I don't know what else to say. That was just a critical foundational tool, and we've developed this budget system that, Steve, what were you saying? It is truly...
It's the most powerful tool for money management we've ever seen. It helps us accomplish more goals than any other plan.
But it keeps your data safe, right? With all the internet breaches that are going on right now, this book here, your personal information, nobody will ever be able to get a hold of.
It's totally secure.
Because it's interesting because I know, when I first started with financial advice 30 years ago, we were dealing with paper budgets, and then we started with spreadsheets. And now so much of the stuff is online, and that is one of the common questions: how safe is my data?
Right. I mean, there's so many good budgeting systems out there. I mean, we really do love Envelopes, MVELOPES.com. It works the same as a paper envelope, cash in the envelope system, and you link your bank account. But if you're concerned about portability, if you're concerned about husband and wife being able to do it together, which we like to do our budget together, if you're concerned about security, then I wouldn't go with those things. We have done it with paper and pencil, and the very act of having to write everything down, it sounds tedious, but it's like spending money. It makes it tangible. It makes it real, and you have a very good idea. You have an absolutely specific idea of exactly where your money's going.
Gary, it's basically short-term goal setting with money. And most people think, oh my gosh, if I have to reconcile a budget, first of all, I just hate numbers, and second of all, it's just too restrictive. And those are some of the most common things we hear. And I will tell you, the people that are willing to, quote unquote, take the plunge and finally delve into it realize, oh my gosh, why did I ever live that other way when I could live this way? Because when you set aside money in advance for things and you watch that grow, and then things happen, and guess what? There's money there to cover all those little emergencies in life.
We'll talk about some specifics, but the point is, what we're talking about isn't taking 40 hours a week to do.
Right.
What we're saying is, what we do is we meet once every 2 weeks on the first and the 15th of the month, so twice a month. It takes about 2 hours. So 4 hours a month, 48 hours a year to manage our finances, to help us pay off our home in 9 years, pay cash for all our cars, take debt-free vacations, put our kids through college with cash on a modest income. We earned, in the last 32 years, we calculated our average income is about $44,000 a year. The average income in the U.S., household income, is $50,000. And we've accomplished these things on below average income.
You know, I'd love to say to folks out there, are you tired of bouncing checks? You know, do you want to have $10,000 in your checking account at all times?
How would you like to have no car payment?
Yeah. We can show you how to do that. Yeah. I mean, we've lived that way, and it's not just some fantasy, it's reality for us.
But, you know, one of the reasons a lot of budget systems don't work is because they're based on somebody else's numbers. So we always tell people, we start with a sheet called the income outgo sheet, and it's in our America's Cheapest Family Budget Kit. And basically, we ask every question you could possibly ask, down to cell phones, babysitters, date nights, what you pay for doing your laundry, dry cleaning, newspaper subscriptions, all that stuff. It takes about 4 hours to really go through and fill that out. And once you have those numbers and you start implementing a twice a month payday implementation, where you're taking the money from your paycheck and distributing it into your budget, you can be on a roll within a few weeks. And I'll tell you what, you'll have more money in the bank, because every paycheck you're going to put aside half of your mortgage or your rent, half of your car payment, half of your auto insurance, half of your food budget. And the cumulative effect of doing all that is going to mean you're going to have $2,000 to $3,000 in your checking account.
Don't you get the feeling that a lot of the problems with budget is just the misconception that people have? I mean, they think that,
yes,
one, it's a lot of work, two, it's a straitjacket. See, I look at it like you, that one is freeing.
Absolutely.
Money that you've planned to spend and you saved, you don't feel any guilt about it, because it's something that you planned and you thought about. The other thing is, a budget is a wonderful management tool, because it helps you when you overspend. Well, then you can know where to look to see where you have problems.
There's a whole a philosophy in life, a rule in life, that says that money flows to people who manage it. It flows away from people who don't. So when you go to the grocery store, they've managed their money, they've managed the environment, they've managed how they display the food in order for your money to flow to them. Unless you have a plan to protect your money, you will spend more than you expect. Well, in the same aspect, if we manage our personal finances and manage our paycheck better than the marketers who want to take it, we will end up having more money. And that's really where we need to go with this. We need to realize that money flows from people who manage it. Money flows to people who manage it, away from people who don't manage it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think if you listen to people who struggle with finances, it seems that one of the most common responses are, "What happened?" People get in trouble and they don't quite understand how they got there, and that's because they don't have the kind of planning that you're talking about.
You know, Gary, if you don't grow up in a home where this was talked about or taught, really you have no idea. The schools don't teach it. So where are you going to learn it? So if you've never been exposed to finances in a positive way and shown a tool that can help you manage it, it can be a pretty scary thing, a pretty overwhelming thing.
And the coolest thing about this is, if you commit to doing it on a regular basis. Some people think, well, I'm going to do a budget in January and that's going to take me through the whole year. Well, that's baloney. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work, because you've got to have short-term accountability. So we found it's not every week, it's not every day, it's once every 2 weeks or twice a month. That's about the right schedule. When we were helping people get out of debt, when we were counseling people, we met with them every week initially. And then we'd go to 2 weeks, then we'd go to once a month. And once they got up and running, they were doing pretty good. So it's just, it's the coolest thing. And the principles, the system is transferable to kids. So we took all 5 of our kids and we taught them to manage the money. First we started them with cash, And then we took, and they eventually went to putting money in the bank and keeping track of it in a budget book like we do, where the account sheets keep track of things.
But that's a whole book. We have 3 wonderful books. This is our first one, and it's the New York Times bestseller.
America's
and it's
Cheapest
got
Family
gets you right on the money. And it's got a little bit of everything. It's got budgeting. It's got kids and money.
How to get out of debt.
It's got cars, utilities, vacations, clothing, you name it, it's in here. So, you know, we don't have a lot of time today. We can't go through the whole book, but we can certainly talk about a few of the things that folks can think about.
Let's let Gary just ask us questions.
Okay.
Well, let me throw one at you. Outside of not trying a budget at all, and what do you find is the most common, I hate to say it, failure, but stumbling block, challenge for couples or for someone who's starting a budget for the first time?
They think that if they put their house payment, their car payment, and food in there, they've got everything covered. But then what we find is, you know, things like, okay, we're recording this right before Christmas. I know it's going to probably air in January, but Christmas comes along, and they haven't set up a budget for things that don't happen every month.
Right.
And Christmas sinks you. And so you're paying for Christmas for 3 months. But in reality, if you were to spend $1,200 a year on Christmas, on all your Christmas presents, that's $100 a month. $50 every 2 weeks, and you've got Christmas covered. And we do that. We set aside a little bit of money every paycheck for gifts. And Annette is like the queen of finding deals.
But there's all kinds
she shops all year long.
There's all kinds of things like that, Gary, that people don't think about actually planning in advance for. Things like prom or vacations or back to school or car repairs.
So the non-monthly things that happen every 6 months or every year can be planned, and the more you plan, the more you save, and the better you'll survive the budgeting system, and the more success.
My experience is a lot of people that run into credit card debt, they're fine, but then there's a household expense or an auto expense or, like you say, a holiday, and they have to put that on the cart because they don't have the money for it.
Right.
Well, that comes into a chapter
where if you look and you go, well, I need to expect that every year I'm going to spend about 3% of the value of my home on repairs, and you budget for that, then you're set up when the water heater goes.
Absolutely.
Well, in our savings chapter, we talked about building an emergency fund. And it took us 5 years to build an emergency fund, and there were 4 or 5 categories. One was emergency unemployment, which is 3 to 6 months worth of savings. Second was emergency home repair, which you want to have 1% of the value of your house. Now, if you live in a $200,000 house, that's $2,000. I mean, you can have more, you can have less, but it gets you close. Emergency travel. What if my parents lived in Chicago? So when my mom got sick, she was dying of cancer, we had $3,500 saved to fly the whole family to Chicago. It wasn't a hardship. You know, the money was there. Auto replacement. You don't ever want to have a car payment? Pay yourself a car payment every month, and we used to do $200 a month. And you know, by the time you have $12,000 in there or $15,000 saved, you'll be ready to buy a car. You'll find somebody who's desperate to sell one, and you'll be able to get a phenomenal deal. We've never bought a new car. We've always gotten great deals.
Right. You know, the beautiful thing about a budget is that probably 95% of the emergencies that people think are emergencies will go away if you have if you plan this. I mean, certainly you can't cover 100% of life's emergencies, but if this year you had half of the emergencies you had last year, wouldn't life be less stressful? Absolutely.
Well, the other thing I know that I've always tried to encourage people is you look at home repairs and go, you know, we had a bathroom flood this year, toilet in the middle of the night, and you don't know when it's going to happen, but if you own a home, you can figure that you're going to have some repairs. I don't know whether it'll be the refrigerator or the dishwasher or the washing machine or the toilet, but
absolutely
every year or every 2 years there's something that's going to crop up.
That's right.
And
that's absolutely
now, one
right.
thing I wanted to ask you about is, like I say, I like to think of a budget as a management tool. That it helps point me to where there are problems or maybe adjustments or possible savings can be found. And I know you all are experts at managing spending within categories. And tell us how you go about that and how people can can learn from your experience.
Well, basically, if you bring home X amount of dollars, you set up your budget so that you're not putting more in your budget than what you're bringing home. So basically, that's how you decide. I mean, when we were first married, there wasn't very much money for things like clothing and rec.
It took us 3 months to save enough money to go out to Benihana's with some friends for dinner.
One time, but that was back in 1982 and we had no money. So obviously you prioritize your accounts. You fund your most important ones first, and you work your way down to the possible discretionary ones. But basically you're going to figure out, you don't come up with a number because of what you feel like spending just off the top of your head. You come up with a number
based on history.
Right, based on history,
so
or what the market will bear.
We have about 18 to 20 accounts in our budget. I'm just going to read you some that people wouldn't necessarily think of. What about pets? Do you have a pet account? Every paycheck we put about $10 to $15 aside for our pet food. We have 2 big German Shepherds. They eat. They need vet visits, and we cap that account at about $300. When we have $300, we stop funding it. How about gifts? Buying gifts, Christmas presents, wedding showers, baby showers. We put aside about $40 every paycheck, $80 a month, $960 a year for gifts, and that covers everything. Let me see this.
We don't need to go into the details.
I'm just looking at
name the accounts. Name the accounts.
And we got our charitable giving account. We set aside a specific amount every paycheck for that. Medical expenses. We have an HSA, but we set aside some money into a regular account for buying vitamins and things like that. So every paycheck we're putting money in there. Clothes, obviously, and people don't buy clothes every month, and we don't spend a lot on clothes because we shop at thrift stores and consignment stores, but we still know we're going to spend money on. Here's an odd account. This one was just kind of like, we don't have a miscellaneous, so we called one hair postage. So it's for haircuts and for buying postage for mailing things. Now, most of the time we do bill pay, but other times, for mailing packages or whatever for Christmas, we take money out of hair postage. And we do have an account for home repair. Now, home repair is not major projects. This is when the toilet leaks and it needs a new flapper, or if the house floods, we're going to have our insurance to cover that, and we'll have our emergency fund to cover the deductible.
It's for a new broom. It's for a new garden hose. It's all that kind of stuff.
Shelves in the garage, that kind of stuff. But what we're doing is every paycheck, we're setting aside a little bit of money into each of those accounts. We can tell exactly how much is there. So when I want to buy a new router, I look at my home repair account. And if I have enough money to pay for it there, I'll buy it new. If not, I'll buy it used on Craigslist. If there is no money and I have a project to do, I'll wait.
Or you'll borrow it from somebody.
And I'll accumulate the money until I have enough. But the cool thing about the budget is because every paycheck we put some money aside, I can watch that money accumulate in the account, and I'll know when we have enough money to go out to dinner or buy a car or buy a router.
If you were to give one piece of advice to, a young person or a young couple just starting out, and what would that advice be?
That advice would be work together on your finances, because, like I said earlier, it's short-term goal setting, and that can be so much fun. It could actually be addicting. As you work together to decide the priorities and to accumulate money. It's exciting. Right. It's really exciting. It's a very bonding thing for a marriage.
I want to paint a word picture. Everybody has an income stream. If you think of a stream, a river, whatever, a flow of water, if you lived in Little House on the Prairie days and you lived by the stream, you'd have to go out there every day with a bucket and go get the water and bring it back and use it. A budget, or your income stream, is that river. And a budget is like building a dam on that river. And you are going to stockpile water. You're going to stockpile your income stream so that you have more of it to use when you want it. Because if that stream ever dries up and you don't have a dam, you're out of luck. You have no water. You have no resources. If we build a dam using a budget to manage that flow of water, we will have money to go through the dry times. We'll have an excess to be used as gifts for people. We will have the ability to make that income go much further. in our area, the Colorado River is dammed up by the Hoover Dam. Originally, the Colorado River, before the dam was there, was able to service several thousand people who lived along the river. Now, that water is stored up and saved for several million people in 7 states. That's the power of a dam. That's the power of a budget. It helps save money for purposeful uses in the future to benefit more people than originally it could have.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. Money is such a core part of all of our lives, and getting control of it can make such a difference in happiness in the people, regardless of how much money they make.
That's right. It doesn't matter how much you make; it's how you manage it. And we're saying, do a damn budget.
Stop.
No, we're not supposed to say that word.
How about building a reservoir of cash? How's that?
There you go.
Sound is good, Gary.
Okay, now I want to before we go, I want to tell people. Now I know you have 3 books. The first one, I believe, was America's Cheapest Families, gets you right on the money.
Right. Yes, there it is.
And that was the second one the Money Smart Family System, or was that Cut Your Grocery Bill in Half?
Second one is Cut Your Grocery Bill in Half with America's Cheapest Family.
And the purpose of that book is to teach families not extreme couponing, but how to shop smarter so that they can the average family should be able to save about $5,000 a year by applying just a few of the principles.
And it'll pay for itself in 1 week.
It will.
Well,
it will.
I know. When people ask me where they can save money, I always tell them once they get past house and car, refinancing or getting rid of a car, something like that. Typically, the grocery budget is the biggest place where they can save.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right. And they save quickly because they shop every week or every 2 weeks. Sure. That is like instant saving in a month's time, $400 right there.
And the third book is The Money Smart Family System, Teaching Financial Independence to Children of Every Age. And that's a Google Hangout for a whole nother time. But I'll just say today, Gary, that 60% of all parents right now are financially supporting their young adult and their adult children. It's epic in America today.
And the amount of student loan debt is killing our economy. It's stealing money away from 20s and 30-year-olds who used to buy houses. 10% fewer of them are buying houses now. They're buying fewer cars because all that money that they spent on college is now being paid back, hopefully, and it's stealing that stream of income. So we've got to teach our kids at a young age to manage their own money. Our kids paid for their own college educations, and they didn't borrow a dime because we taught them to work, we taught them to save.
Okay, but don't go into that. That'll be another time.
Okay, we'll do that on another one.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, tell us about your website.
Okay, we just redesigned our website. It's moneysmartfamily.com. We've got 3 main areas of the website. We've got a section for teaching people how to budget and manage their money better, how to shop for groceries, and how to teach their kids how to manage money. We've got a section with thousands of tips from people all over the world. My favorite tip is what to do with frozen cheese and how to reconstitute it. It came from Norway, and you'll have to go onto our website to find out, but there is a way to make frozen cheese not crumble when you cut it.
And we have a great resource and review area where we highlight and profile some of our favorite books, movies, and music.
And games. Don't forget games.
Oh, yeah. Games are a big one.
One of our favorite games is Settlers of Catan.
Are books available on your website, or should someone head to Amazon for those?
Well, our books are definitely available on our website.
If they want an autographed copy, they can go to our website. If they want to find an inexpensive used version, go to Amazon. I don't really care where they get it. I mean, I'd love for them to buy it from us.
Right.
But I want them to get the books in their hands. I want them to read them. And I want them to see their lives revolutionized, because it's the most cool thing is when we've helped somebody with their finances and they've started budgeting and they've learned the value of it, they write us and they say, I cannot believe we were ever living any other way than this. Right. This is so freeing. It's so invigorating. We're accomplishing things we've never accomplished before.
Our books are also available at most public libraries, too. So if people want to try them out first before they buy them, they can do that. And, if they want to buy them on Amazon and they go through our website, we get a little commission that helps pay for the website expenses, so we're grateful.
The product we're most excited about is that it took us about 2 years to put together. This is the same budget book we use. Same system. We sit down every 2 weeks, and we've got this available on our website. This is our newest product, and we're having trouble keeping it in stock.
Right.
I really think, since most of the people who come to our website are women, they don't like the computer thing that much. They like the idea of something they can touch, feel, work with somebody on. It's Y3K compatible.
But we are way over time, so we need to end this for today.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Steve's running off the tracks.
I do that. Squirrel.
Well, thank you all for joining us today and sharing some wisdom. And I do hope people take the message seriously, because it can make a big difference in their lifestyle. I want to remind our viewers to follow the Dollar Stretcher on all the various social media channels, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and visit thedollarstretcher.com. And I hope that you always live better for less. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.